Welcome to the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show, a broadcast service of globalbusinessnews.net.
This episode from the meeting room of Global TV Talk Show is brought to you by
the BridgeSchool, the accredited international online private school of choice, at bridgek12.org.
Porch Light Rental and Destination Services. Reduce your renter lump sum or managed relocation costs. Visit them at porchlightrental.com.
CubeMonk, featuring the world's first smart cube. Track your goods with our advanced GPS system. Welcome to the future of moving and relocation at cubemonk.com.
Primestone Partners, featuring corporate, government, and developer housing solutions, as well as senior-level advisory services. Find them at primestonepartners.com.
And by heirs.com. With our full range of services, we can help design and manage your international relocation. Find us at heirs.com.
Insured Nomads provides protection and peace of mind with health insurance, travel insurance, group, or tailored insurance for the globally mobile. Visit us at insurednomads.com.
And by International Auto Source. We are the vehicle experts for expats, featuring all major brands of automobiles with flexible solutions and financing. On the web at intlauto.com.
It's Ed Cohen. I'm in San Diego, California. We're expecting a major winter storm here in Southern California. Up at Big Bear, 7,000 feet, they're going to get more than 2 feet of snow in the next 30 hours. Amazing, isn't it? Here, we're supposed to get some rain. I don't know about where you guys are, but we could use the rain. This is a talk show, a conversation, a dialogue with experts in education, particularly fully accredited online education. I want to turn this further announcement over to Chase Eskelsen. Please take it from here, and please do your best intro of Alex Wax.
You got it. Ed, thanks again for having us. We really love being on your show. Myself and then Julie Taylor, I know many of your listeners probably know us by now, but my name is Chase Eskelsen, and I am leading an education nonprofit based out of the Phoenix area. It's called Verano Learning Partners, and we really focus on partnerships with schools and districts and charters and private schools and anything and everything in between, and just providing that great digital solution for both an in-person, kind of more of a hybrid school, as well as our full-time online school. One of the schools that we have is the BridgeSchool, and Julie Taylor is the headmaster of our BridgeSchool, full-time, online, international school. It's a great addition to our lineup, fully accredited, NCAA eligible, kind of a tricky one to say, but that's really unique to what we have, and a lot of the full-time online schools don't have that designation. So that's huge, a differentiator for us. And the reason that we love the BridgeSchool, just like Verano partners with schools all over, the BridgeSchool has partnerships all over the place. And I know we've talked about some of those. We'll probably talk about some more. And up around, I don't know, Julie, what do you think? It was probably 6-7 months ago when we got the BridgeSchool. We acquired it from another friend of ours. But prior to that, we had partnered with the at-home tutoring and Tutapoint, and good friends Eva and Sarah running those organizations. We're so excited today to have Alexandra Wax joining us, and she is going to add a whole new slew of content that we've never touched on, Ed, and it's going to be so applicable for our international families, looking at how do we get our kids from these international expat locations back into the United States and plugged into a U.S. college in some form or fashion.
So Alex Wax is Director of Test Preparation and School Admission. She's a certified teacher with a master's in educational leadership. Alex Wax had first become interested in the college admissions process during her time as an undergrad transfer student, relocation at Rice University in Houston. She has since gone on to build expertise. Alex, I don't want to read any more of this. I want you to tell us about Tutapoint and your experience, please.
All right. Tutapoint and at-home tutoring services, which are two kind of sister companies, what we do is offer on solutions is sent for Tutapoint, specifically online, at-home tutoring, both online and in person for local students. With basically all the parts of the educational process. We have a really sort of one-on-one personal approach with our tutors. Our tutors really get to know the students. And some of our students are with us from elementary school, working with various tutors who are on the service all the way up through college and like college admissions and sometimes even beyond. Part of the reason that I love working for a company like this is that what we do is really sort of, we can help spearhead any part of the educational process that kids need help with, whether that's academic tutoring or where my focus is more the test preparation and admissions process to bring students towards successful college admissions.
So this is Tutapoint. That's Tuta Point. Tutapoint.com. That's really cute. Tutapoint. Yeah. Tutapoint. It sounds like Italian or something. Tutapoint.
Are your students or children struggling with their grades? Do they want to get ahead? Introducing Tutapoint, an online personal tutoring service for students in math, science, language arts, social studies, world languages, and writing. Well-qualified, experienced US-based tutors meet with students in our live, award-winning online classroom at an affordable price 7 days per week. Students simply access Tutapoint online, create session requests or regular tutoring sessions, and then meet with experienced instructors in an award-winning virtual classroom, where they'll use such features as our comprehensive whiteboard, video, and audio conferencing and file sharing. These interactive options allow tutors and students to collaborate on ideas and share practice problems together, making instruction effective and efficient. Students can even access recorded sessions to review concepts they have previously learned. Tutapoint has been featured in the Wall Street Journal and PC Magazine, and our service has helped thousands of students achieve academic success. Create your free account today.
To what extent do you address kids who are anxious and not able to do face-to-face, and they need some remedial care?
Well, I think we're kind of uniquely positioned to do that because a lot of our platform has offered online. We've partnered with online charter schools for a long time, not just in the time period of the pandemic. So we have a fair amount of experience working with students who may need a variety of things. And, sometimes, especially in these times when everything's uncertain, your tutor, or in my case, your admissions counselor, can be not just a tutor, but a mentor, or, I don't want to use the word friend because obviously they're an adult and the student is a student, but also, somebody that is a resource outside of simply, how do I do this math problem?
So oftentimes the admissions officer is like a cop, from a negative point of view. So what you try to do is go around that, right? And you have a master's in education. So this is really a soft, needed touch. I can see that.
I think that, one of the things about the college process in the US that's very, very different from the college process in other countries is that we do what's called, here in the US, most schools do what's called a holistic evaluation of the application, which means that they are looking at scores and grades, but they're also looking at personal characteristics. And so, if my job is to help you get across those personal characteristics or your students' personal characteristics, we do often get to know each other. And, my job is to help students put their best foot forward and show off who they are, which can be, for many kids, a really empowering process too. So I think that, even outside of the guidance through a difficult, kind of stressful college process, there's a lot of benefit to students of having somebody who can kind of work with them through their time in school. And particularly, as you were saying, if they're transitioning back to the United States from elsewhere.
So Before we get into the test preparation thing, which is key, of course, but how do I phrase this? How do you reach out online and take somebody close to you and, and make them feel comfortable?
That's a great question. And I think different tutors probably do it really different ways and different teachers. I personally was actually trained to teach test prep material online starting back in about 2011, 2012. So this is something I've been doing for a long time. But in my experience, and with the teachers that we're working with, we see our students, our the classroom platforms that we use, we can see each other, we can speak with each other. I try really hard to involve families in the process so that, we all know that we're on the same page and we're on the same team. And and not every tutor does this the same way. I would say I take pride in being really accessible to my students. I have students texting me, sometimes when, it's that 11:30, oh my gosh, am I ever going to get into college moment that they're having? And, of course they are going to get in, but I think that one of the things in the current, online and hybrid schooling era that I really pride myself on as a teacher, and I think a lot of teachers would be with me, is that sort of going the extra mile to reach out and bring the student in so that you're getting to know each other. And of course, from my perspective, that can only benefit the college process ultimately.
Julie Taylor is the headmaster of the BridgeSchool.net. Julie, how do you prepare kids to get ready to deal with Alex Wax?
So I will tell you that Alex, even though we've all been in this online world for a long time, this past year has thrown us all for a loop. So talking about college entrance exams and talking about the SATs and the ACTs or even the AP exams, this past year, all of that has changed. AP exams, which have historically been in person only, all on the same day. Last year, they were all online. They were given online. And ACTs and SAT test sites were canceled around the globe. And so this has made colleges have to shift as well. And so I myself have 2 seniors. We have a lot of seniors within the Bridge School that are looking into applying to colleges. And the criteria is evolving. And so especially here in the US, colleges are now saying, like Alex had said, that, it's not just one thing that they're looking at. Now more than ever, they're looking at the GPA scores. They're looking at what extracurricular activities the students have been involved in, what kind of volunteer opportunities have they had. They're looking at, one of my daughter's essay questions she had to respond to was, talk about some type of adversity that you had to overcome. So they're looking at the student's character in these applications. And so I think that having someone like Alex or someone who can help navigate this process to really help the students shine when it's so much more than just your GPA or test scores is so important right now.
Something that's really neat is that the Bridge School partners with various organizations to provide learning for their students. For example, we partner with a major ballet company, and we are able to enroll several of their students into our school. So now not only is the student able to participate in a school and have a seamless transition while they're very active in their ballet career, but now they have other dancers that are with them that are doing some of the same courses. So it's almost becoming a camaraderie where they're taking similar courses, they're working together on their ballet, and really being able to form this great partnership with these organizations to provide a needed service. A lot of times there are student athletes who will spend hours and hours at the gym or at the basketball courts, wherever it is. And if they're attending a traditional school, they're in school from 8 to 3. They get a quick snack, and then they're at the gym for 3 to 4 hours in the evening. Coming to us and having that partnership, they're able to break that up throughout the day. They can have a morning practice, get some schooling in, have an afternoon practice, finish their schooling in the evening. So there's that flexibility. And additionally, if there are tournaments or performances, it's fantastic because if there's a week where they have shows straight through, they can take that week off of learning and then pick back up when they're done. So it offers this great flexibility. And for the program owners of these sports leagues, it is a win-win situation for them because they see this need. They see this need that their students need to make sure that they are obtaining the grades necessary to be successful adults in our country and in other countries. But it provides them an environment where they can be successful at both.
Well, now I'm kind of interested to hear from Alexandra as far as what are you seeing? Because you know Julie is seeing it from the parent perspective and from the headmaster, but I think you have a different view. What else are they looking at? What can these families be preparing their students? You know, they've got a junior or a senior right now. What can they be doing to help those situations?
That's a great question. Essentially, the way the process breaks down is that there are several sort of parts, as Julie was saying, of the application. There's, as we always see, GPA, there's test scores, and, you know, as Julie was saying, especially out in the West, there's been some changes. Some schools that historically have looked at test scores are test blind, meaning they're not looking at scores even if you send them to them. And a lot of schools right now, this year, the majority of schools, for next year, we're not sure yet, are what's called test optional, which means that you can send scores, but you don't have to. So one of the things, you know, if I had a junior, I would say, and the advice that I usually give is go ahead and prep for and take those tests, because test optional doesn't mean they're not going to look at them. If they are good and helpful to your application, then those scores could help open up doors for you. And if they turn out not to be helpful to your application, it can be kind of a strategic decision to not send them. And that's something that schools have brought in so much more flexibility for. The other pieces, as Julie was talking about, sort of the resume, the extracurriculars, when I'm speaking to juniors in particular, I love, you know, so many kids are so well-rounded, and we hear this advice of you have to be well-rounded to get into college. And I think to some extent that advice is a little outdated. An admissions officer actually from Yale a few months ago was talking to me about how they want a well-rounded class of students, but they want what they would call pointy students. So whatever your passion is, whether that's a sport, whether that's a particular type of volunteering, whether that's doing yoga, whatever it is, for juniors especially, having them really dive into and spend time and effort in the activities that they most care about. That's really one of the things that we're looking for. And I think that, and then of course the essay, which is, it can be about anything. One of my most successful recent essays was about a girl helping her parents paint her house, and the thoughts that she had thoughts about the way that they should solve the problem of like the different paint splotches on the wall. So it was about problem solving, but really that essay was about paint splotches. And sometimes that sort of creative approach is something that students don't even know they can do. And we want to make it clear that there are a lot of areas in this process where you can kind of show personality and different ways to sort of get at the same result.
In the essay, do you help them?
Yes.
Use short sentences and not funny words, just simple words?
Well, I obviously the essay is the student's own work always. I usually go through a process where I'm helping them brainstorm so that they're getting across the personality traits and sort of the things about them that they want the admissions officer to know. tell people that their goal is to be memorable or for the admissions officer to like them. And so we work on brainstorming. Sometimes we'll work on how we think it should be structured and write out kind of an outline together. And of course, students do the writing, but yes, there's an editing process that we go through, making sure, again, that it's true to them, but that they're putting their best foot forward.
Boy, that's really helpful. I wish I had that kind of counseling last century.
Me too, which is why I do it now.
So, Julie, we're right in the middle of the school year now, but your school's year round, isn't it? It's just nonstop.
Yep, we do, but we definitely have cycles of the school year, even though we are year round and we have open enrollment. We want to make sure we are meeting the needs of the individual student. So very similar to what Alex and her company does, is we really want to give the students an individualized experience. And that's why we partner up so well. One of the things is that, we have students that might be looking to graduate early, and we give that opportunity through earning credits at a faster pace or during the summertime, and they don't have to follow the traditional schedule. And so that is really what we want to make sure and put across there, is that we want to individualize the learning experience for each student.
Chase, you and I have had a dialogue about returning students. Our base business, Alex, is international relocations of people and families. Some teenagers came back to the U.S. suddenly the past 9 months, and I don't know, but I bet a lot of them are somewhat lost right now about who they are as a person and where they're going to be tomorrow. How do you deal with stuff like that? How do they prepare? Or how do they reassimilate?
Yeah, reassimilation. There's probably several different answers that could be correct. And I think that both Julie and Alexandra have really nailed it on the head. Is you have to look at it individualized to each student. There's no silver bullet. There's no one solution for every kiddo. And it really can be a tricky thing. I've had a lot of conversations with, common friends. Sunday Bean, she has her own podcast and she's worked with us in the past. We've talked with Nemo, the art educational experience out of Sweden. We've talked with a lot of these, Nana, thank you. And we've talked with a lot of these folks who, when you create a student who's a third culture kid, they don't fit in any one spot anymore. And I think, we kind of talked about this before the show started, but there's a lot of moving pieces that in the student's mind, this is not going the way they planned. It's my senior year. I should be in a school building with my friends. I should be preparing for prom and graduation and all these different things. And it just didn't quite go that way. And I think there's kind of two schools of thought around this. There's one school that says, if I'm teaching my children or my students in my class a resiliency that when all of this is over, they are going to be able to handle literally anything that comes their way. But then there's like the opposite side that they're kind of just throwing in the towel. You see a lot of teachers unions that have said, well, we're not going to put our teachers at risk. We're not going to have kids come back to the school at all. We're not going to solve the problems. We're just going to kind of wait it out and see what happens. And I don't think that's a good, healthy approach, especially as we're getting more data. And we've talked about this a lot. The data shows that schools are safe for students. And from a mental and social emotional perspective, we've got to take care of kids appropriately. And that is going to look different for each situation. The one thing that I love about what's happening with the tutoring teams at both of these entities is, again, they align with our thought process. It's got to be an individualized approach. We're not going to throw 30 kids in a classroom and say, here's the one solution that will solve all your problems. It's, hey, Johnny, tell me what's going on. How can I be of help? How can I help you to solve your own problems and build that resiliency so that they will be better situated long-term in life, not just to get out of high school. Like, that's great. We want all the kids to get a high school diploma, but how do we prepare them appropriately for college or a trade school or the military or taking care of their families how do we make them just successful citizens in the world in which we live? And that's both applicable to students here in the U.S. as well as our third culture kids that have just been beaten up as they're transferred and repatriated and all kinds of crazy, you know?
So Alex, at this point in time in the pandemic and how it's impacting everybody one way or another, some of the student essays must be relating to how they are dealing with staying at home around their parents all the time, or fighting for bandwidth.
Literally.
This is nuts. Who needs this stress? And so how are kids dealing with this? And I'm sure some will creatively say, well, I didn't get good grades because my parents are hogging up the computer.
Well,
that's the new version of my dog ate the homework, right?
And when students have something, that they need to explain, that whether it's a time of adjustment when they transitioned back to the US, when their academic performance wasn't exactly what they're used to or what they would usually put out, that's one of the things that we work on together, whether it's part of the big essay or there's actually separate space on most applications that you can talk about that. And also, actually, as of this year, about the impacts of COVID-19 on you or your family or your experiences. And the prompt that's given is mostly really open-ended. It's basically, do you want to tell us anything about COVID? Which is, for some students, that's a very welcome opportunity. But as you're saying, for some students, it's a difficult topic to
It'll be
sort of get their
painful.
heads around, whether we're talking
Yeah.
about family tragedy or simply just the difficulty of moving. I've worked with a lot of third culture kids and I love third culture kids, but as Chase was saying, sometimes there is that feeling of not fitting in. And I think, in where they are, and I think this has exacerbated that. So sometimes it's about finding the ways to demonstrate that resilience or to show the learning and growth, because that's the student that admissions officers want to have on their campus, and that's who these kids are. So the goal is always to bring out the best in the kids so that they can be proud of what they're sending off, so that they can say, yes, this is me on paper and I've done my absolute best to show who I am, so that I know that colleges that accept me, they want the person that I am there, not just the student, but the person too. And so, as the admissions process is holistic, so is the process of helping the student through that. I think it's got a lot of elements.
So Alex, I know you're not a psychiatrist or a psychologist, but you probably play one every day. So, I mean, some kids are dealing with a tragedy at home, and they may even have some anxiety or guilt related to COVID and the home situation. And they may not want to talk about it. I mean, what a can of worms, boy.
Absolutely. And I think, sometimes there are, as I said, sort of strategic reasons why we want to make sure an admissions office would have the full picture. For example, a drop in grades, or as Julie was saying, if a student wasn't able to test, in other years, taking AP classes but not taking the exams is not a red flag, but maybe an orange flag in a college application if it happens a lot. In this year, that's not the case, but we want to make sure that we explain those kinds of things. So sometimes we do have to push kids a little bit to talk about it in a way in which they're comfortable. And other times, I've never made a student write an essay on a specific thing. They are young adults, and as Chase was saying, we want to turn them into successful global citizens and people, not just students. So ultimately my job is to guide, but for some students, you're right, they're not wanting to share those pieces, and that can be okay as well. At that point, we have to figure out how else to get across who they are.
Julie?
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I think that, I think that Andrea is right on the nose there, is that you're trying to convey what's going on. And this is important for our international students too. And especially talking about their experiences living abroad and having that experience and bringing it back to the States. We do have a lot of students that are not from the US that are applying to US based colleges. And, having a US diploma from the Bridge School definitely helps. But even if they don't have a US based diploma, understanding the right tools to apply to the US based universities is going to help them and increase their chances of acceptance.
Thank you. Chase?
Yeah, I think there's a couple different avenues I would like to explore and get some feedback from Alexandra. First, if it's okay, can we start with, when we say test prep, what exactly does that mean? Because in the charter/district world, there's a lot of negative connotations about teaching to the test and the standardized testing and this and that and that. But what we're talking about with your organization is completely different, right? We're talking about ACT, SAT, all that kind of stuff. So can you kind of unpack that and explain from a parent perspective, why would I want to sign my kid up for test prep?
So the simple fact is, I am a test prep expert who hates tests. I think that these are not, I wish they'd disappear. I love that the University of California isn't requiring them or even looking at them. I think that they are not, for most kids, a great way to show their intelligence. And there are plenty of studies that show that they don't correlate very well with how good a student is or how ready they are for college. All of which is to say that taking these standardized tests that help you for college admission, specifically the SAT or the ACT, is a completely different skill set than anything that you're doing in school. The content may be similar, but there's so much strategy. And the approach that I and my team kind of take is, we want to show you how to beat the test. There are certain things that you're going to see. There are concepts that they're testing in certain ways that you may never have seen before unless we can show them to you. So my goal is for students to go into this stressful experience on top of, as Ed was saying, many other stressful experiences in this time frame, to go in and have a game plan for every question and every section. So I would say, even for the best students who are, top of their class, and certainly for other students for whom this might be sort of a nerve-wracking thing, it really can help to have some measure of test prep just so that they know what they're going to see and they're feeling confident that they have some strategy to move into the test with.
This is really fascinating. So Julie, to what extent is your student population? This is an off-the-wall question, so if you don't want to answer, it's okay. But to what extent, Julie, is your student population tuned into Tutapoint.com?
So that is a little bit of a loaded question, Ed. So like Chase was saying, before we began BridgeSchool, it's okay. It's not. We had a partnership with Tutapoint where we wanted to refer a lot of our students over to them. After we acquired the BridgeSchool, we have kind of changed the model because the current student population was used to one model. So I think that what they are offering is a fantastic supplement to any kind of schooling. Whether it's like Alexandra said, the K-5 options or the middle school or high school. I think that as parents, we feel that we can help our students until they're about in 5th grade, right? And that's what I hear from parents all the time. I can help my kids up till 5th grade, and after 5th grade math, forget it. So I think that it's really just a great benefit for parents who are just not feeling comfortable and they're not feeling that their students are able to necessarily get the full benefit of whatever school they happen to be in.
Oh,
I think there's another important facet to talk about on this front, Ed, and that is, we, the BridgeSchool/Verano, as well as Tutapoint and at-home tutoring, we kind of live by the saying, you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And we've had a great relationship in spite of the fact that our school has changed and our format has changed, where we've referred students to them and they've referred students to us. And we're going to go along because we're aligned. You know, the way that we see serving students, it's the same. We want to serve up an individualized student experience with a high touch, high opportunity to really serve students effectively. And so, you know, we've got a great friendship with them, and I anticipate that in the near future, we'll find another way to work together officially, but unofficially, we're still very much aligned.
Well, this has been a great conversation. So bringing together, Chase, your other relations like Strong Minds and iCode and Tutapoint, this is really one hell of a resource for parents and corporate people managers to know about, and many don't. We'll certainly do our part to educate them, but this is really like the future, isn't it?
We think so. You know, it's so much more than just, you know, having a place for kids to get educated. There's a lot of places out there that are educating students. And I think that during 2020 and now 2021, we've realized that a lot of those places were not prepared with a firm foundation to offer up digital solutions for an increasingly more digital world that we live in. And as you know, I work from home. I live in Texas, but our headquarters are in Arizona. And technology, communication, travel updates, like they've all made the world just a much smaller space. But education historically has been so slow to adopt all of the digital features that are out there. They're in use in so many different industries. And so we really are proud of what we've been able to do through our Verano schools. You know, we've talked about this before, but COVID hit and most schools shut down, and most schools said, wherever your grade was on March 15th or whatever the day was, that'll be your grade for the rest of the school year. I am so proud to say that the Verano schools continued going forward because we had that digital infrastructure in place. We got through the curriculum, and we awarded students with actual grades that represented their actual work from August through May. That's almost unheard of. There are so few of us out here who had the infrastructure in place, even for our brick and mortar schools, to transition so seamlessly. And I think, Alexandra, you probably have a really unique view on this because the two entities you're supporting have probably seen a pretty big boon as far as families that said, oh man, my kid did not get through all the curriculum. They are not prepared for next year. You know, there's all these things, like we think of math. You have to get through certain things in math because that becomes the foundation for next year. And I'd be interested to hear how 2020 and 2021 have been affected and how that has been beneficial for your entities.
I would say, you know, first of all, as a college admissions consultant, thank you so much for giving your students grades all the way through. It is, you know, to me, this has been fair to students, both in terms, as you were saying, of the content and then that they're missing, and then, you know, the ability to show the work they've done in high school. And, you know, I have had students crying to me because they did so much better in the second half of 2020 school year than in the first half, but nobody's ever going to know. So I think, you know, obviously the pandemic has changed everything. We are offering everything from, you know, full on virtual schooling for students to just sort of support in individual subjects as kids need. And I think that one of the things that I think in many ways has been lucky is that we have been able to expand what we can offer because of the digital classroom that we have. We actually have a proprietary digital classroom that we use where students and teachers can see each other, can both write on the screen like it's a whiteboard, which is fantastic for teaching math and grammar. We can share our screens, we can share files. So that's, you know, it's worked very well. And I think one other plus that I sort of hadn't thought of, but that has especially helped me personally, is that it's much more efficient. You know, a lot of my students working for a company in part called At Home Tutoring, a lot of my students, I was going to their homes, which meant I was driving a lot. And now I can see so many more students, and it offers a lot of flexibility too, because sometimes a student just needs to go over a practice test and they did well, and that only takes half an hour, you know, not a full sort of, if they booked a longer time. So I think that the flexibility that the digital offers, so that we can give students what they need, because our students come from such a variety of different both online schools and brick and mortar institutions, and such a variety of backgrounds, and even are in different time zones. You know, we want to be able to offer whatever we can, and this has helped
In
us.
relation, I'm sorry, in relation to the different time zones, are you all able to support the entire world, or is it dedicated to certain time zones? How does that work?
So we do have students in all time zones. I was recently working with a student from Israel, which is, I don't know how many hours, but significant. We do
It's
have,
the 10 hours from here in California.
okay, I don't know which direction I'm going, but yeah,
Yeah,
it's either
you're
8 hours
central.
or 12 hours.
Yeah.
But yeah, we do, you know, most of our business on the at-home tutoring side, much of our business is based in the locations in which we have offices, which include various areas in Texas, also Boston, also Louisiana. But virtually, yes, we're supporting people all around the world. We have teachers working at all different times. So it absolutely is possible. And again, we have more flexibility with the digital tools to offer that kind of support to more and different student populations than we had access to or the ability to help before. And that's sort of, in an odd way, been kind of a blessing despite all the awful things that the pandemic has led to.
What a great conversation. Thanks for organizing this, Chase.
Oh, I'm happy to pull our friends in and get their word out as well.
Yeah, thank you, Julie. Yeah, and Alex, nice to meet you. Please come back and talk more about what you're doing as the year goes on.
Anytime you want to talk about college admissions, I am your girl. I am here.
Okay, expect an email.
Absolutely.
All right, Chase, you wanted to close this up?
I would love to. Again, I think your population of people that would be listening to this, I think I would like to encourage you to check out At Home Tutoring and Tutapoint. Alex, is there a good way for them to reach out to you?
So if people want to reach directly to me, either with questions about what we can offer or specific things related to test prep and college admissions, which again is I am a certified teacher, but it's the college and test prep stuff that I focus on now. My email is Alexandra, ALEXANDRA @tutapoint.com.
That's TUTA.
Yes, exactly.
Points.com.
So, or similarly, Alexandra at hometutoringservices.com, either one or both. And I would love to answer questions. You know, I think that this process has become more and more confusing in some ways and can be really overwhelming for families, and we want to help.
Great.
Perfect.
Yeah, perfect.
All right, and then obviously, Ed, we're always going to plug the BridgeSchool. We think we've got something special, and I think that it solves a lot of problems. Julie, can you give us like 2 or 3 problems that it solves for our expat family?
Absolutely. So a lot of students are coming from other places around the globe, and they may not be sure where they fit in the curriculum. So especially if their curriculum did not align with the US-based curriculum, we really offer an individualized approach where they can choose the curriculum level based on their needs and not necessarily just throw them into their age-appropriate curriculum. So that's a huge benefit to students that have been moving around the globe, and the curriculum might be a little bit different than in the US, where they've moved compared to where they came from. So that is a huge thing. And then additionally, our students that are coming in really have the ability, we talked about this earlier, to customize their education. So whether or not they want to take a couple of classes at a time, or if they want to do a full load of 6 courses for the semester, we can work with that to really help them get to their graduation goals.
Perfect. Thank
Excellent.
you, Chase.
Ed, once again, thank you so much for having us. We're looking forward to being back with you again next Thursday.
We'll see you soon. Bye-bye. Take care. Signing off. Ciao.
Thank you for joining us in the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show.
Have a wonderful day, and stay safe.